This is a Bulldog Radio podcast.
Season 3, Episode 57 of the MVSP. Welcome to the show, everybody. So glad that you're tuning in for us. Got a great show today with Brandon and I coming up. Quick little Ferris State sports report. Preview of the Frozen Four happening since the teams have been locked up. And then some MLB and NBA talk to round out the show. But first, Brandon, what do we got?
We got a special interview with Ferris State football player Kai Serviss, good friend of ours in the sports communication program. We're going to have a great conversation. We are excited that you guys are going to be able to join us in that chat. It's going to be good, Joe.
For sure, for sure. So without further ado, let's swing it on into the interview.
In studio now, joining us, Ferris State football player, offensive lineman, our best buddy, Kai Serviss, joins the show. What's up, man?
What's going on? Thank you for having me, guys.
It's a great time to have you on the episode. Kai, I know we talked a long time about this. It's been a little bit tough with the schedule. It's kind of conflicting. Spring practice starting up, but we're very happy to have you in the studio. So first question for you, especially with spring practice starting up, it's nice to get back in the swing of things. It's a strong group making their return, but there's some guys that aren't going to be there. What's that been like so far in practice that you're so used to seeing them last year, but they're not going to be here this season?
Yeah, it's different for sure. I mean, you coming off a national championship run, you got a lot of great athletes and missing those people, but it's just setting a new standard. I think speaking especially for the offensive line, setting a new standard, and we got a lot of young guys, so we got to step up and new mentality and just get after it every day.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. And I mean, the biggest mention from last year's national championship team, your position group, the offensive linemen, were absolute studs. A couple of them may be possibly going to the next level this year. Talk about your relationship with guys like Zane Obeid and Dylan Pasquale and really how they've mentored you throughout this process so far.
Yeah, those are great guys. I mean, like when I came in as a young guy, like those are the type of people that set the standard at practice, at workouts, all types of things like that. And I thought for our offensive line group, we had just a great identity overall. Like Zane Obeid and Squally, if it's drill work, they're helping you, giving you tips. I mean, and those are coming from guys that are going to take that step to the next league and learn new things. And as we grow through this program, it's, up to us to give those steps to the younger guys that we have now. So.
Absolutely. And the official schedule just got released for next season. It's going to be a pretty tough schedule. You got Central Washington that we played a few years ago. Waldorf, who's going to be an interesting contest. Grand Valley is always with the anchor bone. What are some of those contests that you're looking forward to really kind of make statements on as a team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we always want to make a statement on Grand Valley because it's our biggest rival. But it's exciting. I think it's cool to play different teams and stuff like that and play a lot of out-of-conference games. It's something different, but I think it's just exciting overall. And I think as a team, we're all just looking forward to it. And
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you suited up for that anchor bone at Grand Valley last season?
No, I was not.
Were you there, though?
I was there. I mean, it was packed.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That atmosphere, and we can talk about that for a second. Just 17,000 people for a Division II football game, I think, kind of goes understated as compared to like Division I. But I mean, I know I was on the sidelines. Joe was there in the stands. I mean, just talk about that environment as far as from a player's aspect, because obviously we got the fans' perspective from me and Joe's review of that game. But talk about just like the interaction of coming out of the tunnel, getting chirped at, obviously from the fans on the grass, and all the intensity that comes from that game in that stadium in this rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an environment you experience once a year, and it's like, for me, I never experienced it. Like, that was my first year experiencing it. So, I mean, even though I wasn't suited up, it was like you're out there, and it's like you can't hear a single thing.
Yeah.
I think there was one point where we're backed up on the student section, and we had like 3 offsides. It's like you can't hear a thing on the sideline. I couldn't even imagine, like, what we would have to hear when we're backed up, in the student section and stuff like that. But it's like awesome. Like it's the moments you live for as an athlete, right? Where you're in the stadium, there's 17,000 people or, and it's just like, it's amazing.
And it's a feeling we all strive for.
Yeah. It's like, I think we're looking forward to it, at our home place too. Like at Ferris, it's exciting too. I know in 2019 I was able to experience that and that was awesome. So it'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hop into those, especially now playing host to those two teams with Central Washington and Grand Valley. Like, what are those kind of things that make it a little bit different to, have that home field advantage and kind of have the fans a little bit more on your side?
Yeah, I feel like no matter what, like Ferris State has been a good team if we're on the road or at home. I think it's just a little more convenient. Like, you know what I mean? We can do our walkthrough here. We don't have trouble with traveling or anything like that. So it's more of like a convenience thing, I think, and being comfortable being at your home stadium. But then at the end of the day, it's just like you got to win the game, like if you're at home or away. So
yeah,
absolutely.
It's like it's a neutral mentality. Home, away, it doesn't matter. Time, place, who will take you on, and we'll beat you to it. So,
yeah.
But absolutely, and I mean, we got so much to look forward to this upcoming year with the schedule coming out. I mean, you guys starting spring practices as well. I know you guys were under the lights for a couple of the practices this week, and how's that been feeling, and what's the team feeling like as far as kind of differences that we're seeing from this year's team compared to potentially from last year's team to potentially this year's team?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is like we got a lot of returners, I think, honestly, except for the offensive line, we don't. But it's just like a lot of us young guys taking a lot more reps, learning, and stuff like that. So I think that's a good thing about spring ball. But yeah,
you get those opportunities early.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially kind of like that development too. And with the spring game coming up soon, like how exciting is that to be able to kind of actually suit up, get in the game day type feel? Although it's that inter squad scrimmage, it's still pretty exciting. And there's gonna be some bragging rights as well. Have you guys kind of figured out what the teams are so far yet? Like all that type of stuff?
No, we don't get to hear, I think, until like a few days before what the teams are. But I mean, it's exciting whenever you suit up. It's exciting. So it's just kind of enjoying the day. But right now, I think a lot of us are just living in the present, taking it day by day, practice by practice, and getting through spring ball. So it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the goal obviously to get back to McKinney and repeat what you guys did last year. And I know that was an awesome experience for all of us. Take us through your perspective on being with this team from day one, early September, the grind in the summer, and being able to come out on top with a trophy in late December in McKinney. Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, like when you think about it, how long it is when we start, camp in August and you don't finish until December, like it's a long time, but it was an awesome experience. It's just crazy how that transition is, like where you go from the heat of the summer to the winter and then you're in McKinney, like, it's kind of surreal. And in 2019, like we were so close and I was able to experience some of that. So it's just like, getting over there, it was like an awesome experience. Just all the media coverage. I mean, yeah, seeing all the alumni, it was just overall such a great experience.
For sure. And like, I know Coach TA, he's always a guy who's like, it's not over till it's over, like play till the last whistle or whatever. But after that first half, what was that like in the locker room? I mean, putting up a 40 spot against one of the toughest teams in the country. I mean, Valdosta was supposed to be able to kind of hang with us a little bit throughout that whole game. But what was that kind of atmosphere like, and what was the attitude in the locker room like after the first half?
Yeah, I mean, if you know Coach Neese, like one of the biggest things is like just relentless effort and like, always keep pounding the ball and stuff like that. So, I mean, when we came in that locker room, it was like, all right, like let's put 60 or 70 points on the board. Like, let's do it. You know what I mean? And like, no matter what, like we weren't going to put our foot off the gas pedal. Like we were going to keep going. And like we were fortunate enough to have like a great quarterback like Jarrett Bernhardt who like scored on the first play, which is just like, unheard of. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and like a 50-yard plus run at that.
Yeah, and I mean if you go back then too, like it's the offensive line too, like first play, offensive line, their blocking scheme was like excellent executed. Jarrett Bernhardt runs and it's like the sideline, just fans. I mean, even the fans there, like we had a lot of fans from Ferris State. It was just an awesome experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the most unique thing, especially for you, Kai, obviously we share the same major as sports comm guys. We're in the same classes a lot of the time. And I mean, for you, I know like you have a lot of experience within the athletic department doing sales and stuff. And I feel like there's definitely some times where now you're applying like your success from the athletic field now to within your job prep of being able to sell to people, hey, like national champion, like I'm one of them, like this is what you're supporting. How has that felt as far as your experience with working with the athletic department and being able to use your athletic success now within your professional career?
Yeah, I mean, I think the social aspect is a big thing about it. Like what I do at Ferris State is I'm involved with sponsorships for anyone who didn't know. Um, but yeah, the biggest thing is I think social, and like really in the summer when I started, I was a sales associate, and yes, I was selling sponsorships. And so the biggest thing about that is like the sponsorship, like I could see the firsthand change. So like there were like a couple deals that I did, and I could see the change first-handedly, like within the athletic department for the athletic teams. So, and that's like an awesome thing to see as a student athlete, right?
Yeah.
Because like we were getting some things, or, you know, we are having companies help us, and I was able to see that change, which was just like great because all the student athletes are excited about it, and you know, it's just a great experience. So now I'm kind of on the back end of things, so it's like fulfillment, and you know, not as actively involved with directly selling, but
sure, that's so cool though.
And one thing that a lot of people probably don't know about you is you are from Canada. You're not from the States. So what was that football journey for you like? I know you're part of a really, really solid program in Canada, but what notable differences have you noticed between like Canadian and American football cultures and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I'll say like the two biggest things is football is not as big in Canada as it is in the United States. Like, I mean, it lives over here. People love it, you know. In Canada, it's a little different. I mean, you got other sports, you got hockey and stuff like that. And then the second thing, I mean, the biggest difference I'd say is speed off the ball. Yeah. I mean, in high school, it's different rules, so I don't know how sure you guys are about this, but
do you guys play like the football or with the uprights like pushed in Canada? Yeah,
so we play Canadian rules in high school, and so the biggest difference for offensive and defensive linemen is the defensive lineman has to be lined up a yard off the ball. So, I mean, you could imagine like me coming to the States where it's like the defensive lineman is strictly on the ball, and like he's coming right off. So, I mean, speed is the biggest difference, I would say.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the overall athletes too. I mean, it's a different ball game, right? And it's just not as popular in Canada, which is, you know, COVID has impacted that a lot. So I believe like my high school team back home hasn't had a season in 2 years now. So, I mean, it's kind of, it's on a downfall right now, but.
A little unfortunate.
Yeah, that's just a tough thing. I feel like every program's had to endure its sure conflicts as far as COVID is concerned. But I mean, obviously being from Canada, Kai, I mean, everybody has their thoughts of Canada and obviously what they like about it and not. What's your favorite? What's your biggest, like, your thing that you're like, man, I wish United States would adopt this from Canada, or even vice versa. I wish Canada would adopt something from the United States. Could be food, could be music, could be anything.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really have anything in Canada that I miss that much, I would say. I'd say it's very similar. You know, if I would have to advocate for something, it'd be having Tim Hortons in Big Rapids. But
I think the closest one is like Cedar Springs or something.
I know there's one when I go back home. There's one on the way when I go back home. I always stop at Tim Hortons there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get the Timmies.
Gotta get the Timmies. And one thing too, I mean, we were talking about this a while ago. I figured this out about you, but we kind of talked about this before. Is your family is full of athletes, like top level athletes. Your dad is a coach for a prep level hockey team. Your great grandfather played in the NHL, and you just have so many athletes. Like, what was that like growing up with such like success on that end for your family?
Yeah. So. It was definitely it was an awesome experience. So I grew up in the Netherlands, for anyone who didn't know, and I lived there for 15 years. And so my dad was a pro hockey player over there, and while I was growing up, he was a coach. So I mean, like after school, always I would go to like the facility and watch him coach and stuff like that. Just kind of like living in a rink as a kid, you know what I mean, playing and stuff like that. So it was just an awesome experience. And now he's a prep coach, and yeah, my grandfather was a pro hockey player. My great-great-grandfather was too. But yeah, I think even like my dad has just given me a lot of guidance, as well as my mom, just with every decision I made in my life and playing sports and stuff. And even my grandfather, you know, like he's 85 now, and he's given me a lot of like, tips on like how to succeed as an athlete and the habits you need and how to strive and all those types of things. So it's been awesome having that type of support.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, especially having a bloodline that's just so glued to the rink, it seems. Like, what was the thing that brought you over to football? That's not you're a very popular sport, as you said, in Canada or even the Netherlands, too.
Yeah, right. So growing up, I tried hockey. I just never enjoyed it. And I was living in the Netherlands, so I played soccer, which is like one of the most popular sports in Europe.
Yeah.
And then I came to Canada for a summer, and someone was like, yeah, you're, big, like you should try football. And I never knew what football really was. Like I thought they meant soccer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried football and like loved it, and I was like, man, I want to move to Canada and play football, and ended up at Herman, which was, one of the top ranked schools in Canada, which is in Windsor, where my dad is from. So it kind of all worked out perfectly, and yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Very cool.
What was that recruiting process like then? Like, did kind of TA reach out to you? Did you kind of have to put out film at all, kind of being an international student?
Yeah, so I talked to a few American schools. I was originally committed to a Canadian school, but the recruiting process for Ferris was very late. I came in the second week of camp, and it kind of happened all just like very fast, and it was kind of on the spot and stuff like that. So, but it was awesome, and I'm glad I made the decision I made. I love where I'm at. But the recruiting process for Canadians in general is just like pretty hard, because it's just like, once again, it's a different sport almost over there, because it's different rules.
Yeah.
Speed of the game. So it's like you're not playing against good competition like the States at times. So it's difficult for sure to get recruited as a Canadian, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. But we enjoyed having you, and I'm sure TA is glad to have you on board with this program. But Kai, we appreciate your time. One final question for you. We ask every athlete on the show, what's your favorite thing about being a Ferris State Bulldog?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite thing about being a Ferris State Bulldog is the family knit group we have here. Like even being in the studio with guys like you.
Aww.
You're going to make me blush. You're going to make me blush, Kai.
Even for the football team, every athletic team, I feel like we all just, we love each other. We hang out with each other, and I think at some schools you don't have that,
Yeah.
So, absolutely. That's the one nice thing that we've heard from just everybody. It's just such a tight-knit group in the athletic fam, which is really cool to see.
Yep.
At least from the outside looking in, not being an athlete. So,
yeah, I think I could attest to that. Good cultural teams, championship culture, and then good family culture. That's for sure. But Kai, thank you so much for joining us, my man. We appreciate your time, and good luck the rest of spring ball.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
big thanks to Kai again for coming on the show. Always great to have him, and he's got such a busy schedule with spring practice showing up, so it's always super generous that he's able to give us his time that he has. But hop right now into the Ferris State Sports Report. One game happened over our 1 day hiatus over that Tuesday, Wednesday break. Softball was in action against Lewis. Lost both games and got swept there, but there were some pretty solid takeaways from it, but just some work that's got to be done, Brandon.
Yeah, I poked onto the live stream and watched some of a couple of games. First of all, it looked freezing, which was definitely...
Press box wasn't freezing, that's for sure.
That is true. I'm very jealous you got to watch it from there, but I think there was a lot of good things. You were right, Joe. Obviously, final scores didn't go our way, and that's been a common theme this season. But, there are some good things you can bring out of it. The first game, we were able to get on top first, put the pedal down with the first run in the first inning, and taking the lead. We just had a small tendency to give up some of those big innings, and that's really been the only thing that's really prohibited us from really getting able to put a good lead on teams. And I think that has been that's just a hard thing to go by, with the classic leadership mentality of, okay, we let one go, don't let the next one go, because obviously the most amount of time that you give up big chunks of runs is after you give up a first one, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to get runs, and it's going to be in bunches, especially in a streak-bound sport like softball. So there's a lot of good things, though, still. We got the bats moving in the second game, which was a good response from the first game, with only 2 runs on 4 hits. We were able to get 9, just not able to get anybody across the plate in game 2. I did have a couple errors early on, especially a couple key ones that gave Lewis a little bit of momentum in the early innings, but I still think we did some good things. Being able to hold down the offensive scoring from the other side too. Like we're playing a little bit better defense. Obviously, we can improve on the errors, but I mean, we're not letting teams get fully away from us like we did in the recent past. So it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, 2 losses still gonna hurt, but still a lot of development coming for this team.
For sure, and the name of the whole games for both of these 2 contests was just leaving runners on base. I think combined with those 2, it was like 30-some runners, I think it was, that were stranded. I mean, excuse me. I think 3 or 4 times we had bases loaded with 2 outs, and then we just either strike out looking or something like that. And especially when you're down by that much, you can't really be too picky with the pitches that you're going to let go by, especially when it gets to like those 2-2, 3-2 counts when you have to be a little bit more defensive as a batter. But the one good thing is, like, when we did get hits and stuff, we were able to be, a little bit of nuisances on the base path, kind of taking a couple of bases that Lewis wasn't really prepared for, as well as, sending a few deep, getting some doubles and some extra base hits. And then, I mean, Page with a home run to set the tone early in the first game. But
Dinger.
Yeah, that was a good one to see. I wasn't there for that one. I only got to see the second game. But still, it was pretty solid all around. It's just not leaving runners on base, because if we were able to capitalize, half of those, that's first game we win that like 10-6. And second game we win that maybe like 12 or something. And we are able to put a lot more runs on the board. But just leaving runners on base is also just a big kind of deflator when you kind of go out to next time you come up to bat, because like if you leave somebody on like on second or third and you have that chance to you kind of change it up, and then you either strike out looking or kind of make it so that way you don't really get too much of a good handle on the ball when you hit it, and then it's just kind of like a little dribbler that ends the inning. It's always kind of a little bit of a morale deflator. But regardless, I think that's what coach and the girls are going to be working on this week in practice, is just kind of making sure that they won't do that again, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the biggest quote from your interview, by the way, which was
Ayo.
a great job on the interview.
Thank you.
Being able to use the speed on the bases was something that I know Coach referred to. Obviously, it was in a little bit of a different tense of format, but his wording is concerned. But being able to use this team's very fast, and I mean, we didn't have a lot of opportunities to get them running around the bases, because I think there's definitely some good. A lot of good potential there to end up in a position that we can steal runners in position and be able to get across some runs. Obviously, we tried a couple. I know Paige got caught stealing one time, so I'm not sure if that's something that we might be able to change up coming into the next couple contests, being more aggressive on the base paths. I mean, especially in the fact of a lot of the times we're just one out. We're just one out too soon from getting those potential runs across the plate. So I mean, there's a lot of time still, but I mean, there is a little bit of sense of urgency as now we're on home turf. We're playing some of these teams that we know we can beat. So just really getting a couple wins under our belt is really just going to be the confidence to start to turn this thing around. Because I think the biggest thing when you're going through a stretch of just you can be getting pounded some games, then you can end up being so close, and then you might let it slip away. It just kind of demoralizes yourself, and you start to doubt the little things that you've been doing all off season long. So really, it's just a matter of time, really. And we saw that a little bit with the hockey team as well. And we went through a cold stretch, being able to play really well against a team like Bowling Green going into the break got us a little bit of that momentum juice going in to the second half to be able to play some really nice hockey the rest of the way. So I see it as a very similar way. We're just due for one, and that's really what I see this coming up to. And that's going to be a good chance for us coming up on Thursday when this episode is aired. Obviously, it'll be tomorrow when it's released, when we play a team like Wayne that we know we're right there with in the conference, and we can definitely give them a run and beat them.
That's going to be pretty solid for when we open up that play. But also just like it was super cold. So playing softball and like stuff like that in the cold is always not super fun, because, a ball might hit your hand a certain way and it starts to hurt a little bit longer than usual. You get jammed a little bit with a bat and it kind of messes up your hands and you don't really have that strength anymore. So that's the big thing, is like when you're used to playing, indoors and down south a little bit for the opening up to the season. And then even when we played Findlay, Ohio is a little bit like I wouldn't say nicer, but a little bit warmer, during like these kind of months where it kind of gets up a little bit. So they're still kind of used to not, struggling and like not having to have hand warmers in their back pockets. So that way they can kind of get their hands a little bit looser. But that's just the one thing too that you gotta look out for. It's just, it was very, very cold that day. I mean, I could feel it in the press box. Like my feet were starting to get a little bit chilly. I had to stand in front of the space heater that we had up there.
Yeah, it's definitely cold. And I mean, yesterday it was pretty cold. I mean, it's almost to the considerable temperature of like Hey, should we be checking the temp to make sure that we're legally allowed to play with metal bats going into a game that's this cold? But obviously, I mean, playing ball in the cold, I know me and Joe have plenty of experience in that.
March is the worst.
It is the absolute
worst.
March
is the worst month.
Have you ever had to play with snow on the field?
Yes. I had to play like there while it was snowing.
Really?
That was rough.
That is awful. We had one game where we had a snow fence or pretty much around on the home run, like on the track by the fence. So every time you get a double, every time an outfielder would chase after it, it was just immediate hands up. I don't know where it is. It's in this 4 foot wide, like 2 foot deep snow patch. I don't know where it is. It's in there. I'm not gonna try to find it.
We can find it when it all melts away. But yeah, that's the really tough part about playing in the cold. Yeah. Especially for that, you just have to bear the elements, and it's not always the easiest when you're trying to win games.
Yeah, just make sure your hands are warm, and don't take one off the barrel or the end.
Yeah, definitely.
Yikes! Rip your hands. That hurts really bad. But you can follow along with all of the softball stats and schedule information on the website ferrisstatebulldogs.com. But anyway, moving over, got some good matchups coming up in the rest of the Ferris State Bulldogs scoreboard as well. Men's tennis and women's tennis, as we mentioned on last episode, which you haven't checked that out, go check that out after you listen to this episode. Great conversation with tennis player Josh McDermott and his time coming from New Zealand to America to come play college tennis. Really good conversation. You can check that out on wherever you get your podcast. But, I mean, really, Davenport, as you mentioned, Joe, on the last episode, they're looking really good right now. And this is going to be a true test for us going in here into the month of April.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one that is going to be a deciding factor for how the season goes from here, because I think Davenport is, if I'm not mistaken, at the top of the GLIAC with us right now. I don't think they've lost so far. But, this could be a game where it kind of derails us a little bit if we don't take the right approach for it, or, if by happenstance we lose or whatever, just kind of coming off of that. But I think we'll be able to really come in there and give a really strong competition. I mean, our doubles are, really solid all throughout, and our singles have really not too many weak spots. I mean, each match and each games that we've played, it's been, especially in conference, it's been 6-1 wins. We've been able to lock up on the doubles. So I think just starting out strong early and getting that point and is able to really just make it so that way it's a lot easier and not as much pressure when it comes to singles for a lot of our guys. But I still think Doran is going to be able to really set these guys up for success. Josh was talking about that, is that they're just getting ready to, play a really solid team. And it might be outdoors. I'm not sure. That might be a little bit different, but a lot of people are really excited for that. And I think this is a good spot for the women too. I mean, coming off a thrilling win against Lake State, it's going to be a solid test for them, because you're just trying to make it so that way you get a little bit more momentum, get a streak going, especially against Purdue Northwest, who's on the lower side of the GLIAC for the women. I think it's going to be they just got to set the tone early against Davenport, get that win, and they're able to really make the weekend solid and get the win there.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a catapult. We've had some great competitions as far as regional matches, and I mean, we're going into a tough stretch here with a lot of good GLIAC teams. I mean, we mentioned that we already beat Grand Valley earlier this season, and they're third ranked in the conference, and Davenport right behind them right now. So battle of the top seeds really coming now, and I mean, we're going to eventually have to take on Wayne State later on in the season, and they're another tough squad that's gotten off to a good start, 14 wins for them. But I mean, you look at a lot of these guys on the men's side in particular, and for the women as well, that are looking as far as where they are in rankings of regionals. I mean, especially looking more towards the end of the season. I know Coach Doran talked a lot about that with the early scheduling of the games like Hillsdale and when they were playing Walsh earlier in the season. So a lot of those games are coming up in those quality regional wins can not only catapult you into conference play, but it's going to help you down the road when regional rankings come out, and you're going to find out where you're playing potentially in May. So, because I mean, you look at where the men's are in the Division II rankings. I mean, we mentioned it last episode. Davenport, they're 23rd right now. They're in one of the best program starts in history. We're in 26th. So, you need any extra motivation, there are 3 spots ahead of you. And we've had to play some of the tougher teams already this year. I mean, we had to battle St. Leo. Yeah, they're 3rd right now. So that shows you how much tough tests there are in Division II. And I think there's a lot that we can get out of these upcoming games. I mean, especially with rankings-wise. And I think you look at especially at where a lot of the doubles teams have been going. They're really on a roll right now. And I mean, those extra points, they're going to be coming up crucial. I mean, especially on the women's side, we've had the last 2 where that crucial doubles point has been the key to us to get a victory.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to be the mantra for the weekend is just get that doubles point, and we're going to be in a solid spot for the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, with the women's as well, I mean, right now you're in a position of you guys are stepping up really well with the absence of your GLIAC Player of the Year from the previous season. And we've seen everybody step up to help the team get to victory, and it's been almost a rotation, right? If you have somebody that has a slower start, you have somebody like Sam that picks it up, or Patricia Gomez as well, that steps in and gets you that extra point, and that's going to be huge. And when you come up with these big matchups, and I mean with the women as well, I mean they're really hunting down in the standings as far as the conference is concerned as well. Right now we're sitting in 4th. We got Wayne State, Grand Valley, Northwood ahead of us. And overall, those teams really aren't that far ahead of us. They've just won 3 games, and we're 2-1. That's the only difference. Like, there's still plenty to get to, and I would argue that we've played much tougher competition here in the early months of February and March. So there's a lot to get there, and I think that just makes even more motivation, right? You go into this schedule. Right now, Davenport isn't as strong on the women's side as the men's side. Take that and use it, and really get yourself in a position where you can really put a pounding on a team, get that confidence rolling, and now once you attack that upper half of the schedule, you got nothing but the right foot forward.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be fun, but obviously that will be on Thursday, or not Thursday, excuse me. That will be on Saturday, and they will also be taking on, I believe, Purdue Northwest will be on Sunday. Is that correct? Yes? Yes.
Saturday against Purdue.
Saturday against
Friday,
Northwest.
Saturday.
Friday against Davenport. Whew, there's a lot of dates here on my screen. It's kind of making my eyes. I need like those blue light glasses right now. It's like almost staring into a movie scene. What?
Blue light glasses?
I love blue light glasses, man. They get me.
Some people say they're placebos, but I don't think they work.
I will attest that they definitely work. Because when you work on, I've worked on huge video projects that could take like up to 2 hours at a time, like on Adobe or Premiere or any other video platform. Like when you're doing all sorts of rendering, splicing, and you're just staring at the screen and moving clips all day long. You're like, by the end of the 2 hours, you're just like squinting, and you're just like, I need to get out of this chair. It's not staring at a screen. Blue light glasses, you're like, man, I'm feeling really good right now.
I think it might be just because I have regular glasses. I'm an actual glasses user because I have terrible eyesight, so that's why I need to use glasses. Unlike you blue light glasses people who want to wear them for style. Who want to wear them for style.
Do I wear mine around?
No, but
you didn't even know I had any until just now, probably.
I know a lot of people that wear blue light glasses just for style, and I'm just like, I did not go through my whole middle school and early high school life getting made fun of for wearing glasses. And now everybody's saying, oh, glasses are so cool. Glasses are so cool. Let me get a pair of blue light glasses so I can wear them around. No, take those things off and use what you have. Use their good eyesight that you've been blessed with.
Oh, my gosh.
I can't even, if I didn't have contacts in right now, I couldn't even see Brandon clearly. I'm sitting like 2 feet away from him.
Yeah. Hey, everybody has their own deficiencies, and some of it's eyesight. So I think, and that's one of the more common ones too. I would agree with you though that there's like times where what gets me, not necessarily the blue light glasses, but the glasses without frames in them. It's like, to me, I'm like, why would you just wear that? It's just kind of pointless.
Oh yeah, where it's just like
it's just the frame.
It's
There's
just a
no
frame.
lens.
Yeah, that's just weird.
I don't know why you would do that, but I'm not a stylist guy. I'm not into fashion. I don't exactly know what the latest trend is going on across the sea, so I have no idea about that stuff. So I mean, I'm sitting here right now in an American Eagle sweatshirt, and yes, Joe, I am in shorts, but...
Yeah. Hey, I'm in shorts too today.
Oh, you're in shorts!
Yes,
okay, you're feeling great now, aren't you?
It was a little bit chilly. I thought it was going to be a little bit warmer, but I also didn't know it was like raining / snowing when
I'll
I got
admit,
outside.
I wish I would have wore pants today. It is true. I just came from doing like barrier work inside.
I'm going to be spending most of the day inside, so it's no big deal, but... I think we should probably go to the next part of the Ferris State Sports.
Yeah, let's get back on track here. You get it. Michigan State Spartan Invitational for my team is coming up. Friday will be some of the throwing events. Saturday will be the rest and the running events. Going to be a great meet. We haven't been to this meet in 3 years. I have not been able to participate in this track and field meet. Obviously, we have the cross-country one every year. Overall, my time at Ferris, because last time was in 19, and that was when I was a senior in high school. So we haven't been to this meet. I haven't been to this meet in a long time. So it's going to be a really good experience. I know I'm going to be able to see some of the guys that I ran with in the summer that I had the fortunate to meet up with that are on that Spartan team. So I'm really looking forward to see how our team will compete. I mean, there's a lot of good competition going in, especially on a first meet of the season. Going to be a rust buster, obviously, because, got a month from indoors still, so getting the racing feeling back will take some time, but still going to be a great meet going down to East Lansing. And I think the biggest thing is just being able to get to a meet. Have to travel very far because we're going to have a little bit of a travel schedule coming up to Kentucky and Pennsylvania over the next 2 weeks. But I think this one will be fun, being able to go down to a really good meet with a lot of good competition, and I think just a great environment being, it's Michigan State, right? It's like, yeah, but it's cool no matter what. It's like it doesn't matter necessarily how great the meet is. Like, you're still in East Lansing and you're competing on a Big Ten track.
Yeah,
so
that's still pretty sick experience.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So a lot of good guys. I know a lot of my crew is gonna be taking on the 5K. I know a couple other guys in the 1500 and all that good stuff. And obviously the ladies have been doing a great job as well. So a lot of good things going forward. Had some great workouts this week, and obviously had some hype up from coach, and looking forward to really ripping it and getting ready for it's going to be a fast outdoor season. I mean, I already looked at the calendar. I'm like, we got 5 weeks.
You got like straight 5 weeks straight, don't you?
5 straight, and then conferences and for exam week. So
yeah, I was going to say, like, we only have like 5 more weeks of school. So
yeah, it's scary, frightening.
Ain't that crazy? It seems just like yesterday that we started first semester of this year.
Yeah,
weird.
It
I
is.
know. It's crazy how time flies. All blends together.
Time flies. I'm not looking forward to how fast next year's going to go by, to be honest.
Gotta savor it. Yeah.
But
last part of the Ferris State Sports Report, got golf coming up. Win will be at the NC4K Classic in Blacklick on Monday, so we'll kind of talk a little bit more about that on Tuesday, at least the day one recap, as they're going to be playing both Monday and Tuesday. And then men's will be down in Canton, Ohio for the Cav Classic. Same thing, Monday and Tuesday, so definitely stay tuned on our Tuesday show to hear all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to talk to Tom last night at our FCA meeting, so good to see him and get a chat about it. But I mean, from their perspective too, they're out playing in the cold right now. Like they're going down south still, and they're still getting the snow and the wind and all that nasty stuff. So, pretty crazy to me when they were talking about the tournament of last weekend. Like, there were guys shooting 10 under, and what seems like you're going for even par or anything better is a plus type of weekend, basically, from what the weather was concerned, but still put together some really good results. And I mean, this regional competition has really, really tightened up. I mean, with a lot of the GLIAC teams as well have gotten very, very good so far this season, and obviously there's still a lot of time left until conferences at Augusta later on in here, late April, early May. So, but a lot of good competition this year. It looks to be a little bit of a tighter race going up into that conference tournament. So, I mean, really look forward to seeing how this team does.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. But now we're gonna hop into the Frozen Four. I think it's going to be a little bit different before we kind of take our break. It's going to be a little bit shorter of a segment here. But Frozen Four is all set. Michigan versus Denver, Minnesota versus Minnesota State. Minnesota State, at least, is our CCHA representative for this one. This one's going to be pretty solid. There are some pretty good games to lock these in. But have you been paying a lot of attention to the Frozen Four yet?
I have, and I've watched some of the games. Unfortunately, I watched our fellow conference friends, Michigan Tech, lose in a heartbreaker.
Hate to see it.
Yeah, that was a tough game for them. But I think
it is Minnesota Duluth though, so it kind of
Minnesota Duluth is a tough team, and they're an awesome program across all sports. I mean, we played them in basketball earlier this year after the New Year, and that was one of the best games I've ever seen. Division I, Division II, all across. So, but I mean, Michigan's offense, dude. I mean, especially against Quinnipiac Woods, he was just electric.
Ridiculous.
4 straight to open up. How do you go about that? Just like 4 goals in the first 30 minutes, and it's like we got to pull 5 back in the next 25. Yeah, you're able to get
2, and then they're like, all right, we're going to put 2 more on you, and 7-4 finish. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, being down 4-0, especially going into the third period, you could even cut that down to 20 minutes, and that's just a really tough. And they ended up putting up a fight. I mean, it ended up being 7-4, but I mean, Michigan, there's a reason why
I mean, they have
majority of this
they
team's
have
drafted.
yeah, they have a star-studded lineup. It's ridiculous. I'd honestly be surprised if they lose to Denver. I just don't think they have the firepower that matches up to that. Especially like when you look at Michigan's defense, like they have one of the best. I mean, you got Luke Hughes, who is a ridiculous defenseman when he gets the puck in his hands, and that's just something that like is so tough, especially when you have when you're trying to like make an offensive run and you turn the puck over, and it's like anybody on their first and second lines could, dangle the puck up the ice and just pass it off, and they be able to get a run on that. But that's gonna be one game that I'm pretty interested to see. It's 1-1. Denver has been looking pretty solid so far. I mean, Denver also has some pretty sick unis, so we'll see if they're able to make it pretty far there. But I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really hoping that Michigan wins this because it would just be kind of cool. Like Michigan hasn't really won a hockey championship in a while, but I mean, it's two pretty historic programs that are going to be taken on for this one.
Yeah, and I think the biggest headline with this Frozen Four has been defense. Has really been the difference in a lot of these games. We're seeing a lot of these good offensive teams that are using defense to really shut other teams down. I mean, we saw that. I mean, with Michigan, first 2 periods they were lights out, and Eric Petrolo is awesome. I mean, he nailed.
He was making some big saves.
Yeah, he was making some huge clutch saves and open chances. Obviously, let 4 go in the final period. You can kind of throw that aside because basically by then the game was over. But I mean, you look at a lot of the teams like Duluth as well. Minnesota State, we know, is a high-powered team on offense, but they still can lock it down on defense. There's a reason why they've only allowed 5 to 10 shots against some of our conference teams in regular season games. So it's going to be a super fun Final Fours here because you look at Denver, who's a team that's always in the hunt every year, top seed in that regard, and then you got Michigan, who's pretty much a pro line team ready to go to the next level.
For it.
And then you got a really good rivalry
I
coming up with
cannot
Minnesota
wait.
State
I cannot
and
wait for this game. Let me tell you what, though. ESPN needs to have just like somebody sit down with them because they moved it from ESPN 2 to ESPNU. So not everyone's going to be able to watch this game.
No.
This is honestly Minnesota versus Minnesota State. This is a huge rivalry game that's going on.
They seriously did that?
Yeah, they moved it. They're not putting it on ESPN 2.
No.
Yes, and
That's
it's stupid because this is going to be
this is
going to be an incredible game. Obviously, it's going to be in Boston, so it's going to be a little like you're not going to have as crazy amount of like the fans there as you would if it was kind of if one of them was hosting. But like you don't really see these two teams play each other. I mean, they haven't played each other in what? At least in the playoff. One second, let me look this up. Ramble a little bit, Brandon, so I can look this up.
I'll keep rambling. Minnesota State and Minnesota obviously don't meet a lot because obviously in the other sports there's a split in division with Minnesota being in the Big Ten at the D1 level and Minnesota State being down at the D2 level. But that hurts because I always look forward to that. And obviously for us in the 14 year of being able to watch Ferris State in the Frozen Four, I mean, we were wanted to be on ESPN primetime. We made it there. And literally just last week, saw Northwest Missouri win the national championship for Division II. They were on ESPN 2. What's the difference? This is Division 1. This is not Division II. This is Division 1. How in the world? This is highway robbery. That's what it is, because they want you to get Plus to order to watch this game, because half the people cancel ESPNU. Why? Because there's nothing worthy to watch on it besides the 1 or 2 games on the year that they do this dumb switch over to be able to keep people on those. That's terrible.
It's very frustrating, but you definitely know that this is going to be a good game. Dryden McKay is going to be able to hold it down for the Mavericks, but Minnesota's had some pretty solid goal scorers that have come through. I mean, they're a 2 seed, but they're making the Frozen Four for a reason. They've been able to put up some pretty solid performances. I mean, 4-3 versus Massachusetts in the opening round against the reigning champions. That was a pretty solid showing. And then shutting out Western Michigan, who when we played them, or when Ferris State played them earlier in the year, like Western is a pretty solid offensive team. They're able to really open it up, but Minnesota was able to put them up on a goose egg 3-0 to send them to the Frozen Four. So I think it's going to be a really solid game. Minnesota State has kind of been struggling a little bit with putting up a lot of goals with the teams that they should be scoring a lot on. So I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring, probably maybe 2-1, 3-2. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 1-0 final for one of these two teams. I'm going to take Minnesota State just for the CCHA purposes.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if the Golden Gophers make it to the championship.
Yeah, obviously, go blue. Let's get them to.
I'm hoping Michigan wins that, but like.
But Minnesota State, seeing them in the title, I think would really put a people's perspective of like, holy cow, like this team is the second best team, or would be the best team overall in Division I hockey, and little old Ferris State beat them. Like, that just shows you, like, sick. Hey, we actually are a very reputable team. Did we lose some games? Sure, but we beat what could be the national champion, and we have beaten a Frozen Four team. So the fact of it is,
hey, to be honest,
that would make it better, honestly.
To be honest,
for
though,
our reputation
if you look at,
and for the conference.
Oh, for sure. And if you look at it, like, if we just flip-flopped all those games that we lost in the third period, we'd have the same record as Michigan Tech.
Oh, my gosh,
and
don't.
Us in the playoffs?
I can't.
Us in the playoffs? What?
I can't think about that without just grimacing what could have been.
Maybe for our senior year, they'll treat us with a trip to the Frozen Four. Who knows?
I would love to be that. Back at TD Garden,
yeah.
I'd go back for sure. I would maybe consider flying out there if it wasn't during a meet week. But going to be a fun Frozen Four. I think a lot of people don't really truly know the magnitude of the Frozen Four and how awesome it is.
I think it's a crime how much college hockey flies under the radar.
ESPNU? Are you out of, what is going
put that
on?
ESPN, dude. Straight up, right on the big page.
I don't mind. Okay, I know.
ESPN is covering NHL as the same thing. So, like, I don't know why they're like, oh, let's toss it to a lower streaming.
I understand there's probably NBA games, which we'll talk about here after the break. There's probably NHL games. But that doesn't mean, why are you moving it from 2? What's taking over at 2? You're not putting reruns of 30 for 30 on there, or you're not putting any boxing stuff because you moved that on ESPN Plus, and you're not going to take that over ESPN over the NHL or NBA games. That doesn't make any sense to me. That is strictly a crime. ESPN, you should be ashamed if you're doing this. Put it on 2. Everybody wants to watch this because it's going to be great hockey.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, get him out of here.
Get him out of here. Get the streaming services out of here. We need ESPN2 for the Frozen Four championship. But when we come back, we're going to have some MLB, NBA discussion right after this. Over the past 2 years, this show has changed a lot. But one thing that has always stayed the same is our podcast platform and distributor. Anchor.fm is the one-stop shop to create, distribute, and monetize your podcast all for free. There's built-in uploading options and editing tools so that you can make and create and publish your episodes with ease and have all sorts of exclusive options as well as sponsorships, subscriptions, and even monetize ads as well. You can have all the analytics, all the insights to make your show number one. So if you're thinking about making a podcast, look first at Anchor by Spotify. That's anchor.fm. Second half of the show, also big thanks to all of our partners that help make this show possible. They are so crucial to help us make this show a reality, and you can get your show started today for sure. But moving into the second half, NBA, MLB on deck. We'll start in hoops, and I mean, we're getting down to the end of the season here of the NBA. Only 5-6 games left, and Joe, one of our notable teams we talked about earlier this year, might be looking to fall out of the play-in tournament. What's going on with the Lakers?
I don't know, dude. That's the one thing I'm pretty sure when we recorded this and when this all these superstars started coming to Los Angeles, like we talked about it and stuff, and I said it's gonna be interesting to see what they do when a lot of these players need to take load management games, because that's what this roster is kind of known for. I mean, LeBron has taken load management games more often than not. Anthony Davis, even though he's the youngest on the team, he's been taking load management games, and I think that's the problem. Is like you have all these guys who I think if they were able to work together and play 80 games together a season, then they really be able to develop and really be able to play very well together. But I think when you just have, every week, one guy is sitting out just for load management, it kind of messes up the flow of the team a little bit. And I think that's the one problem spot, especially when you have a young Suns team that's really been killing it at the top of the league. Grizzlies have a young core. Mavericks have a young core. I mean, Warriors are out with Steph Curry right now, most likely for the rest of the season. But, you have Clay, who is a veteran, but he's able to kind of be able to play really well. Jordan Poole has been playing pretty solid despite that half-court shot last night that was a little bit little bit premature, I'd say, with about like 4 seconds left on the clock. He just decides to heave it from 80 feet out or whatever it is. But that's the one problem is like they just have a lot of guys who have load management issues and they need to sit out. So I think when those games come up where they need to have everybody play, not all of them are going to be ready.
Yeah,
so that's a big problem.
Yeah, premature was definitely the definition of Jordan Poole's shot last night. And Steve Kerr even said, "Hey, good shot. I can understand why you took that shot." And I can know a little bit too with the defenders closing on him, but obviously doesn't look good on paper when there's 4 seconds left after you chuck up a half quarter. You could have got a better look. But I mean, with the Lakers, I think the biggest thing for them is they're finally realizing the star veteran route really isn't the way to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, like you just mentioned, Joe. Getting them all on the court at the same time is so hard as it is. And I think the biggest thing, too, is like all around these star-studded players as far as their skill sets are concerned. We're talking about LeBron. We're talking about AD. We're talking about Dwight Howard. We're talking about Russell Westbrook. These guys are all physical players, slashers. Getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line is the MO. But when you're the second worst NBA team in shooting free throws, you're literally negating your strength, right? How does that help you as far as winning games? And that's something that comes with them for sure that I've noticed a lot in these games. And I mean, they have a pretty solid team. I'm not saying like necessarily they're not a playoff team or whatever. I won't be surprised if they slip into the play-in tournament. Obviously, they're kind of in a fight now for that 9-10 spot with New Orleans, but I might like New Orleans in that matchup based on how elevated they're going, and even if they get Zion back next year at full strength, that team could be a potential playoff contender. But I think when you look at a lot of these teams too, especially around, outside of the Lakers, young cores are starting to really show out in a lot of these teams. You got a team like the Phoenix Suns, man, that look absolutely incredible. I mean, they're already at 62 games this year that they have won. They're only lost 14 going into the final 6 games. That's just an incredible feat for them. They've been dominant at home this year, and I think that just attests to them on how well they've played, even especially on the road too. They've only lost 6 road games this entire year. And
crazy.
They don't have those. The biggest difference between them and the Lakers, they don't have all those star-studded older veteran guys that are having load management games. Now, obviously, there's some that can obviously rest, like Chris Paul. You can give JaVale McGee the night off when you got guys like DeAndre Ayton or Bismack Biyombo to step up in there, and Jay Crowder even as well. But you have McCall Bridges. You have guys like Elfrid Payton, Cameron Payne that are playing high-level basketball and that you can insert whenever you need to. And then, obviously, you got a huge vital piece to their team as a scoring person like Devin Booker that can fill it from anywhere inside 30 feet every single night. So, I mean, that team just looks phenomenal. And, I mean, you look at the standings right now, the Suns have clearly ran away with this one. And they're going to be, and this would be very interesting. You see a potential matchup. I mean, right now, looking at the conference standings as it is, in a hypothetical, if we went to the playoffs tomorrow, here's what we'd get. Lakers beat the Pelicans, and then they end up beating the loser of potentially the T-Wolves or the Clippers. They're going to be playing the Phoenix Suns round 1. And boy, that's going to sell a lot of tickets, but you got to be in a little bit of scared scenario if you're Frank Vogel, and if you're that organization, Rob Pelinka, cuz I mean, you're in a spot where you've tried it twice now, right? And it hasn't worked, right? There needs to be a different method, and honestly, like if you're in the position where you're wondering about the real depth of this franchise, I mean, I have to say it, like there's a good chance that you should see Russell Westbrook not only get traded from the Lakers, but even potentially walk to a team that he can be more beneficial on, like he was in the Thunder after Harden left, because I believe that's the best way that you maximize Russell Westbrook's potential is when he has the ball most in his hands with a team that plays well off ball, can defend very well, be gritty, and that's the best way that he can make a team successful moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the one thing too, is just like looking at a lot of these teams in the NBA, like what has been able to make them so successful, and just to kind of see like how many like organizations kind of take a different approach to it. Like the Suns, like they have like a good spread of everybody. They have the they have the veterans, but they have the young guys. The Grizzlies, they have Ja Morant as like their main guy, who is a young guy, but they still have all those, Steven Adams, who's been in the league for so long. And I think that's the one thing, is having that healthy mix, and also finding those older players who aren't worried about putting their body on the line is a big thing. And that's what you've been able to see with a lot of these teams that have a lot of success later on the season. The one thing too is like looking out for the Nuggets as well. I think they're going to be a sleeper team going. They're 5th in the East, in the West Conference, but they've been able to really move the ball around. They've been playing pretty solid. So when it comes to playoff times, they're a team that's not anything to slouch at. But Brandon, I think the one team that we do have to talk about today is Pistons aren't last place, man.
No,
people were thinking they're going to be last place, but we got motorcade, we got everybody. I think we're going to be clicking next year, especially with a new draft pick coming in. I think if we make the right choice, hey, we don't even need a draft. We might be able to use that for stock and try to get maybe another player in and try to, use that as leeway to get some more veterans on this team that can really show out and play some pretty good basketball. But Pistons, I knew that this was kind of going to be it for this year. We were going to be lower the totem pole, obviously, with kind of that younger core that we have that's not as experienced. But hey, with the way that our young core has been playing, yeah, we don't have as many wins. But when you're in a pretty competitive Eastern Conference this year, like, it really is anybody's game.
It really is. To all those Orlando, Houston fans out there, your 70-degree weather, guess who's laughing now? Ha! You have an extra loss.
It might be 30 degrees out, but we're laughing.
Yeah, so take that to all those hating on, and a special shout out to Jalen Greene. Anyway, moving on from that. Anyway, the Detroit Pistons are in a spot right now where you don't see. I don't think I've ever seen a team or a fan base that's so excited for a team that's only won 20 games. I don't think I've ever seen it, because what we're seeing with the way that Troy Weaver's kind of assembled this team together is you're like, oh, wow, this team actually has some really good chemistry, a lot of young players, a lot of good, talented, skilled guys that you can even bring off the bench as well, and everybody's in a good rotation to where it's like, man, you give this team another year, they might be up in the play-in conversation. And based off of what we've seen, we've been playing some really good basketball. We almost beat Brooklyn last night. We could have beaten the Nets, and Kevin Durant's like, yeah, that team's got some ballers. Like, they're a good team. I got mad respect for KD saying that. Because it takes a lot to say that about a 20-win team, right? But that just goes to show how good that this team really is. But when you got a guy like Cade Cunningham, Motorcade, on this team, 17 points, 5 boards, 5 assists each game this year. He's been, obviously this is hard from an unbiased standpoint as a Pistons fan, but I think he's guy rookie of the year for what he's been putting up. Because I just don't see any other rookies that have been kind of playing as well as he has. I can understand the argue for Mobley, because the Cavs have been doing so well there, especially in the first half of the season. Now they've really fell off. They're only 7th in the Eastern Conference as of now, and they've been on a little bit of a slow stretch. But in reality, Cade has had such a bigger impact on this team than Evan Mobley has. The Cavs are a young team, and I'm not saying like anything slandering their performance this year. They've been great. But when you got guys like Darius Garland, who's an all-star that's balling out on that team, and you got a lot of these other guys like Karis LeVert that you bring over at the trade deadline that have boosted this club, it's hard to center. It's like, yeah, Evan Mobley really is the rookie of the year because those guys around him are making him a better player. There's no question about it, where Cade's doing it from scratch with a young team all the way around him, where he is making himself as the rookie to make this team special. And I would argue that without Cade, this team wouldn't probably have 20 wins. They might be in the 14 range, honestly, easily with Cade not on this team. But you've got a lot of talent here, and I mean, bringing over Marvin Bagley in the trade, he's looked really well, and I think that the biggest thing from Sacramento, they didn't develop him at all. Obviously, their relationship was tattered, and that really hurt his development. And now we're seeing a lot from Dwayne Casey to bring him into the position that he is. And we see a lot of the raw potential that this kid has. And you got Sadiq Bey that has been doing well, and he can be a sharpshooter any night of the week. Killian has been a really good player alongside Cade, and I think they've really kind of got together, and kind of whenever they're on the floor together, they seem to gel a little bit better. Obviously, we'd love to see more offensive efficiency and a good jump shot from Killian, but defense-wise, that guy's a monster. But you got a lot of options in this draft. I would agree with you, Joe. I think you could look at a power forward position is probably going to be the number one look, because honestly, Jeremy Grant's probably going to be in the market in this offseason, so I know there's already been teams that have been looking at him for over the past year. and it's just a matter of time until a contender's going to pull the trigger on him. So
Yeah.
obviously you look at maybe a Jabari Smith, maybe you look at somebody down the road at the power forward position. Hey, maybe even look for even a bigger guy that you can pair along with Isaiah Stewart that's playing really well in March, a.k.a. Mark Williams. I don't know. Obviously, there's people that think we should draft Chet Holmgren. I might have different opinions, but I'm not throwing that one out the window
Just
either.
got to get some meat on his bones and he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that you can do with him, but honestly, in our system, it would be kind of interesting what you do with that pairing, but I think you have a great core with Cade, Killian. Obviously, we got a lot of depth on the bench as well with guys like Livers. We've seen a lot of good things from Frank Jackson. I know, especially when I went and watched them at LCA, he had 21 and he was popping off in the game when they played against the Warriors at home. So I think there's a lot of good things you see coming, and there's a lot of good development down too that we haven't seen a lot of guys. And they've been playing really well, and we're seeing them getting better, like Chris Smith and Jamarco Pickett as well, down in the lower ranks as well. So a lot of good things to look forward to with this team. Obviously, it's going to take time, but it's just like the Lions. It's just like the Wings. Build up the talent around. You start to get the buzz in, and now you're going to bring people in, because now look what Detroit's doing over in Tiger Town on the other side on the diamond. That's where we're going to get people coming in. That's where we're going to become legit contenders. Absolutely.
And speaking of the Tigers, spring training is up and going, and Tigers are kind of slapping right now, not going to lie. Torkelson and Greene are really starting to make that kind of push to be able to put in the starting lineup for opening day. That's what a lot of fans for us Tigers want to be able to see, is those two young guys. Miggy wants to see that. We've been really playing really well. Akil Badu has been really, really kind of solidifying himself as a really great front man for that leadoff spot as the number one batter. As well as you got Javi Baez too, who's been really playing well in the field. Just got to get that bat moved up. But Brandon, there's a lot of great things coming for this Detroit Tigers team. What are your thoughts?
I would totally agree, and I think the biggest question mark we all have is, are these guys starting opening day? My opinion, yeah, no, let's go. This team around Torkelson, Greene, a lot of these young guys have shown that they can win games. We saw it last year, an 80-win team. And now you've seen these guys that are one of the best players in all of spring. Now, obviously, yeah, there's young guys. There's some raw talent there, and there's some reasons why you'd keep them in AAA. But my argument is, like, this team's ready to win right now. Like, let's take them and use them in the most games possible. And in that scenario, that doesn't mean that they're going to be playing 162 games. No, not even close. You're not going to play them that many times, because obviously smart managers and smart team officers know that you don't burn out the young guys too early, because then you see honestly like a setback. Obviously, I would even look at a guy like Bryce Harper now. Like, he's a star, but he was played so much when he was 19, 20 years old, when he came up so quickly. Now he's kind of hit the back burner as far as how well he's been playing. I mean, he's still a superstar, but I mean, he's getting struck out by some of these Tigers pitching staff, which you could say is not reputable enough, but I think they've been fantastic over the spring so far. There's a lot still that it can become, but I mean, yeah, Javi's been great with the bat as far as getting runs across the plate. Just need to get that average up a little bit, but I mean, he's showing the raw power that he has overall. But I mean, once again, Riley Greene is the leader right now, I believe, as far as guys that have at least registered, I want to say somewhere around 20 to 18, 17 bats so far this season throughout the 7, 8, 9 games. I think he's got to be the highest. Yeah, 389 average according to the stat sheet on Tigers.com, and now 478 on base percentage. He's been on base. He's gotten hits, and he's gotten extra base hits. And to me, that's showing like, yeah, he's league ready against a lot of these pitching staffs. And I just don't see, I know there's like, you don't want to burn it too early, but my argument is they assembled this team to win now, this year. You bring in Javi, you bring in Barnhart, you bring in all these other pieces around like Eduardo Rodriguez. You have to start winning now. And that's what you just need in Detroit, because this is an 80-win team. And right now, it's only but upward, because we know how good A.J. Hinch has been with all the players that he's had. He knows how to move up with these younger guys, because obviously we saw the development he had
with Houston. Like that was crazy.
Yeah,
like
because
that's one of the main reasons why they were able to win that World Series, because their farm system was so good, and he was able to be able to bring up the right guys. And I think, although he's a cheater, I'm going to say that, I think he's going to do pretty solid. I don't know. He's guilty by association.
Yeah, that's true. We've learned one thing. We've learned the trifecta of things Joe hates today. Glasses for people wearing glasses.
People wearing glasses that don't need it, and people who
the trash throws,
and AJ Hinch because he's guilty by association.
Oh, I was gonna say the one quarterback that used to play at Oklahoma as well would probably be on that.
Oh
list.
yeah,
So,
him too.
Yeah, that's the trifecta. That's the three spearheaded trident fork right there. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that there's good argument. I think you start him day one. I honestly do. I think it works for this fan base. I think these guys have shown that they're ready. Obviously. Will they play every game? I don't think so. And obviously, will they maybe go down for assignment? There possibly is. But to me, there's just so much potential. And what you're seeing right now, I'm seeing that they're ready and they're ready for this moment. So why not give them the shot while they're ready? And don't pull them up in some sort of an injury rehab where they got to try to adjust on the fly.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's going to be the best thing for us, especially. But, I mean, if you really look at the schedule so far from spring training, we've been playing against some pretty solid teams that have gotten some solid development. We've been able to beat the Yankees a couple times. Yeah, they don't have their whole roster playing, but, when you have a couple of those good pitchers that they have in the rotation, I mean, Garrett Cole, I think we faced one of those times. Our guys, Tariq Skubal, has been pitching pretty well so far in spring training. But, just looking at it, we've been able to have the Phillies number so far this year. We've been able to beat the Pirates once or twice. So a lot of these teams that were solid last year that are looking to have that same thing, we've been able to compete with them. And I think that's the good thing, especially seeing since our young core is starting to get a lot more development where you're playing good. It's all Detroit Tigers for this year, I think.
Yeah, the rotation's been great. I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, Tariq Schoolball's at a 2.08 ERA right now, and he's over 8 innings, or 8 2/3 that he's pitched. Adam's friend Matt Manning that he's been watching this year has been pitching pretty well so far. He's had some runs come across from unearned errors, but I think there's definitely a lot of potential with our rotation because, I mean, obviously we mentioned it on that previous episode with Adam when we talked about this team more in depth of having Tyler Alexander in that flex spot with Mize, Manning, Skubal, Rodriguez, and then now you're going to be putting in Michael Pineda, I think is just a huge bonus for this team. And the bullpen's gotten better with guys like Andrew Chaffin. Jose Sonero's been really good. Just get Michael Fulmer healthy for once here, and you're going to see the benefits there. So there's just a lot of good things we're seeing from this team so far. And they're taking it to every team that they've played this spring. Like, I mean, you mentioned the schedule, Joe. I mean, the Phillies, yeah, you can say they're our little brother at the moment based off of the win-loss record this spring. But, I mean, we've definitely showed that we can play with some of these top teams, beat the Yankees, crush the Blue Jays. And, I mean, we're right there with a lot of these teams. I know right now as we're recording this episode, they're playing the Blue Jays right now. So we'll have to jump on that as we end this episode. But there's still a lot of good things to look forward to, Lee. The future is bright across the board, and you got the veterans that are going to keep the young guys in check and tell them, hey, don't get too up on your high horse, we've seen a lot of the maturity from those guys already. So I'm not too worried. I think this team's ready to win now. 80 wins is the benchmark. It's the floor. And it's only upwards from there. I'm serious. This team has so much potential.
Yeah.
It has so much depth. There's no reason that we can't get over 85 wins this year and make a huge run at the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox for the Central.
I think so, dude. I think it's all up from here, and we've been able to see that so far last year. I mean, yeah, we didn't have Torkelson or Greene up at all, but I think, dude, Tigers going to be scary. I don't know if it's going to be as good as that run that we made where we didn't win a single World Series when we had the greatest pitching rotation ever alive and Prime Miggy and all those guys, but I still think we're going to be in a very solid spot to contend for this AL division that we're in, and probably AL as a whole. I think we're going to make a good run in the playoffs.
Yep, I would 100% agree. The biggest thing, our roster, our lineup, our rotation looks like an MLB playoff caliber rotation.
Absolutely.
When you look at it.
Absolutely.
And there's so much potential there, Joe. We're going to have to make it down to Comerica. We got to go down to Comerica and watch this team this summer because they're going to be fun. Well, I guess I'll have to, but I'll FaceTime you in.
I'll see if they come down to like Miami or when they play like the.
Oh yeah, you could do that. Go to Tampa or something maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, there you go. That'd be a fun little trip there. But that's going to do it today on the MVSP. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day, and also all the followers on this podcast. We appreciate you. Make sure you follow on all of our social media, all of our podcast platforms. Regardless, we don't judge if you're a Spotify guy or an Apple Podcast guy. I know Joe's biased to Spotify.
Yeah. I judge.
Joe might judge just a little bit, but I don't think he bites, right?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I'm hungry. That's why I brought that up. Anyway, we're going to end the show, and we will see you next week.
Take care, everybody.